Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Ron number 9. It's the number 9 in this series where you can ask me just about anything, almost anything, and I'll answer you. I got a question via Facebook message the other day, actually. Get a lot of those. And it was basically the guy saying he'd been training for, I think it was 12 years or something. Said he was X amount of body weight, and he thought he was about this amount of body fat. He's never competed, but he wants to know, how do I go about becoming an FBB pro? So the answer he was looking for, which I did give him, was the route that you have to take, which is in the USA, you have to do some national qualifying show, an NPC show that's a national qualifier, because not all shows are national qualifiers, and you either have to win your division or, I'm not even sure how the rules, you'll have to look it up. Second place, top 2, maybe top 5, some places, I don't know. So anyway, these qualify you for the national shows, which for us are open men, which is no age restrictions. You can get a pro card at the USA, and it's top 2 for every weight class. You can go to Team Universe, and for the open men, only the overall champion gets a pro card, and he has to pass a drug test also after that before they grant him the card. After that, you have North American Championships, which is, I believe, every class winner. Again, if I'm wrong on some of these, you know, you can look it up yourself. I'm not that concerned. Nationals is also top 2 for every weight division, gets a pro card. Masters have more options, obviously, as bodybuilders. Nowadays, especially Team Universe, there are a couple pro cards given out. North American, there's a few pro cards given out for Masters. Masters Nationals, of course, there's a few cards given out. So that's the answer as far as you know, what route do you take? You have to do a national qualifying show, and then from there you go to another show that's a pro qualifier, and depending on what the specifics of that contest are, you have to win or get top 2, or sometimes it's only the top 2 overall weight division winners in the overall. Those are the ones that get pro cards. But the real question, or the real answers to the question should be, and I did give them a very short version of this, is you need to have the right genetics to be a pro. And that's something a lot of people either don't want to hear or they're just ignorant about. You know, there's the assumption among a lot of people, even people that live the bodybuilding lifestyle, that anybody can look like a pro and anybody can get that type of physique and win the shows and get the pro card, and it's just not true. You need a certain set of genetic gifts to be in place. These are things that you're born with. You got them from your parents and their parents and their parents, parents, passed down. So you need things like the right bone structure. What I mean by that is, you know, wide clavicles, narrow hips. If you're, you know, tall with clavicles like this and you got hips like this, there's no amount of training you're ever going to be able to do. There's no amount of drugs you can use that are ever going to have you looking like a pro bodybuilder, which we like to see an X frame. You know, again, wide shoulders and lats up top, small waist theoretically, flaring quads. So you need that structure, the bone structure, the initial framework in place. Then on top of that, you have your muscles. Now the muscle bellies are important. You need to have fairly long muscle bellies. What do I mean by long muscle bellies? Every muscle has an origin and an insertion point. So, you know, using my little weak-ass biceps as an example, they originate back here, you know, right at the shoulder there, and they insert. You can see mine doesn't insert all the way near the elbow. Some people it goes up. The biceps are probably a bad example for this because there are people with shorter biceps that have done pretty well. But overall, the length of the muscle, how close it is to the next joint, determines its possible size, its cross-sectional mass. So if you have short muscle bellies all over your body, you're not going to build much muscle overall. A good example is calves. If you have very high calves, which means you have high insertions, you're never going to have huge calves. Doesn't matter what you do. Never, never, never. Whereas there's a lot of people with very low insertions. Some of these people's calves insert down near the ankle. Huge calves. And a lot of these people have never done a damn thing for them. Never done one rep of calf raises. Meanwhile, here you are with your high calf insertions, blasting them 4 times a week, 30, 40 sets, killing yourself, and you're never going to have calves like, this fat guy in front of you at the post office or the bank. Anyway, so muscle bellies, always important. Metabolism is important. You need to be someone that puts on muscle fairly easily while still staying lean. If you're someone that gets fat very easily, you're probably not going to be a great bodybuilder. And so the response to training is the next thing we look at. When you start training seriously, putting some effort into it, do you grow and immediately start looking better than most of the people at the gym or not? Most pros, even if you couldn't tell before they started working out that they had any kind of real potential, once they started hitting the weights, and this is regardless of where they knew what the hell they knew they were doing, they were clueless, shit form, even with nutrition, they were not eating right, not eating enough food, not eating the right foods. Usually they still showed a tremendous response to training, far above and beyond what the average person would see. These type of people would make the kind of gains in a year that would take other people 10 years, 15 years to make, if they could ever make them at all. And of course, let's be real here, drug response. That's the next thing for a lot of these guys that are pros. The first time they took drugs, kaboom, they just blew the fuck up. Boom. Some people are just amazing responders. And they don't need a lot of drugs. Believe it or not, there are people that respond well to pretty moderate amounts of drugs. As soon as you put those factors all together, you get these phenomenons, and they're rare. That's why you don't have that many people that look quote-unquote like pros. That's not to say that a lot more people don't build a lot of muscle and can get very lean. There's a lot of those, but the physiques just don't look very good. They're not pretty, as we say. They don't have that nice flow, shape, symmetry. And some people don't understand that either. They have no eye for physiques. That's why everything I'm talking about makes no sense to them. They can see one big guy that's 250 pounds at, let's say 10% body fat, with huge wide hips, narrow shoulders, short muscles, just an ugly, ugly body. And then they see someone that's, more of a 250 pound Phil Heath, and they say, well, it's pretty much the same. It's not the same. This one guy can't win his class at a regional show, while the other guy's got 7 Mr. Olympia titles, because he's got so much better genetics. So it takes all those things to become a pro. Now, yes, it's way easier these days to become a pro because there's a lot more pro cards available than there were 20, 30 years ago. When I started following sport 30 years ago, at the USA, only the overall men's champion got a pro card. That's it. One man got a pro card from the whole show. Same thing with the North American. Overall champ, only guy that got a pro card. Everyone else that won their class, bye-bye. See you next year. Try again. Nationals back then was still every class winner. But we certainly weren't giving out pro cards to anyone that took second place at any contest. If you talk to any of the old grouchy guys who were around back then, they'll laugh at that whole idea. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Pro cards for second place? That's ridiculous. So, I could talk more about it, but I think I've said enough for now. From Old School 90, good guy. He contributes a lot on the Jason Genova thread, which is one of the most entertaining, if questionable, threads that we have on the MD board. Old School asks, do you think posing should count not just at the Arnold, but every pro show? Yes. Yes, it should. That's not to say that someone with a bad physique or someone that comes in out of shape should be winning just because they're an amazing poser. No. But if a couple guys are pretty close and it's kind of a toss-up, one of them's a really good poser. He has excellent presentation, nice transitions, all these things. Puts on a nice, entertaining routine that's fun to watch, grabs your attention, and displays the physique well. I pick that guy as the winner, absolutely. Versus someone that's awkward with their posing, shaking, looks like they're in pain, they can't control their breathing, and their guts popping out all the time. The presentation is supposed to be a big part of the sport. It was for many, many years. We got away from that as the 90s came around and mass became the main criteria that physiques were judged on for the most part. Presentation sort of fell by the wayside, and it became something that wasn't really considered that much in the overall placing anymore. So guys stopped putting a lot of time and effort into their presentation once they figured out it didn't count anyway, which led us to the point where we are today, where there's not that many people that really devote the time into looking polished and professional every second they're up on that stage. I do see that being changing now. Two reasons. Arnold Classic is judging the posing, so at the Arnold shows, you can't be a shitty poser and win, theoretically. You have to have some skills. You have to put on a good show and look like a professional, carry yourself that way and stay tight, keep your gut sucked in, keep your chin up, keep your shoulders back, all those things. And also classic physique. Now that that's come along, these guys on average are much, much better at posing and presentation than the open class bodybuilders. Much better. And I think that's kind of making everyone step up their game. So yes, I do think it should count at all the shows. I don't think, again, it should elevate someone whose physique is not up to par into a much better placing. But I do think if physiques are pretty close, it should definitely swing in your favor and make you place higher or even win if you're the better poser, have better stage presentation. Old School also asks, you got 3 questions here. How should obvious SEO/lumps and guts be punished by points or disqualified? It's a tricky area because, we'll say it's obvious and the athlete will deny it up and down. No athlete is ever going to admit that he's got site injection oil in his body parts. I remember that guy from Canada last year had the most ridiculous looking shoulders. He was all over the internet, and he was so angry that people called him out on it. He denied it up and down, said no, it was an infection, it was this and that, even though pictures showed it had been around like for most of the year already. His shoulders have been looking like that for quite a while. But anyway, it's tricky. I believe they should be punished. I would score that person much lower. You should disqualify them, but we live in a society where everybody sues everybody, and I could see somebody being disqualified and coming back and suing the organization or the judges or something. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. Should guts be punished? Yes, absolutely. And again, it's kind of similar way to the posing. If some guys are pretty close, but one of them has a big gut and the other one has a nice flat midsection, obviously the one with the flat midsection, to me, looks better. The better overall shape and flow to the physique. A distracting big gut that's taking your attention away from the beauty of physique. So I would do the same thing. I would score them lower. And if the fans are outraged or the athlete was outraged, I would say, you know what, you look pretty good, but that gut, it's just killing you. It's killing you. You got to do something about it. Get a handle on it, and next time come back with a smaller midsection, or at least keep it sucked in or something, and you should do better. Last question from him was, do you think a good version of Kai could have beaten Phil this year? Could have? Yes. Would have? No. No. I know Kai was second 3 years in a row. One of those years, I don't know which one. I'm sure a lot of you guys will know right away. He was downsized. He was streamlined. He went for a lot better condition, and his waist was much smaller. I thought he looked amazing that year, which one of those years that was. I would have picked that Kai over this year's Phil all day and all night, for sure. But Phil was still is Mr. Olympia. It's very tough to beat a Mr. Olympia. It always has been. It's always been tough to beat the reigning Mr. O. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to speculate as to why or how, but I don't know. I don't think Kai would have been given the title. I think Phil still would have kept it. What was wrong with Phil's physique? It was really just a gut, and he had a double hernia, I know. So I don't want to pick on the guy. He competed, and it had to be pretty painful to train for the show like that. So I give him his props. He still looked pretty damn good. Did he have a little gut? Yeah, he did. But I've seen a lot of guys with guts. Should he be Mr. Olympia with a gut? We're still debating that. The show has been over for a month, and that's still being discussed all day, every day on the boards. Last question I'm going to take today comes from Guy Hungwell. Awesome porn name, Guy. Guy's avatar is a picture of him from the back. You can see kind of one flared lat. He's in a dimly lit room, kind of like I am. So he says, Ron, in your next one, could you describe how you ate when you were last competing versus today when you're not anymore, or at least till the next time? All right, well, I won't get into the, blow by blow, meal by meal, but, when I compete, my contest diet is very, very regimented. It's very boring. Same meals every day. It would generally be like 3 whole eggs and a few egg whites, along with some oats and a couple strawberries or a few blueberries mixed into that to give it a little bit of flavor. You know, they're low glycemic. They're not going to kill your condition. That would be my pre-workout meal, because I've been lucky enough to train in the morning after one meal for many, many years now, because I work at home and I'm basically on my own schedule. I would have a shake, even post-workout, even in prep. I would usually have whey protein, you know, about 50 grams of whey protein. I would have something like Glycofuse by Gaspari, some sort of simple, fast-acting carb, fast-digesting carb in there, about another 50 grams. Then about an hour to an hour and a half later, I would have something like 8 ounces of chicken breast and a sweet potato, or a cup of brown rice. I'm sorry, I'm lying. I don't eat brown rice. White rice. I don't know why I said brown. And every other meal would be pretty basic. I would usually have one more carb meal, not always. As I got closer to the show, I would only have those 2 carb meals a day. But generally speaking, for most of the prep, it would be those 2 meals. Then the third meal would be something like ground turkey with some rice, or a potato, or a sweet potato. You know, a lean protein and a complex carb. And then after that, it would just be 2 more meals usually, and those would be something like a little bit of ground beef or a piece of steak with some raw vegetables, green beans, asparagus. Last meal would usually be salmon. And those are interchangeable. They're both fatty or protein sources, so I wouldn't have carbs with those. I would have just that and some raw vegetables, and then call it a night. Versus now, I still eat pretty much the same things. I can almost tell you exactly what I eat almost every day. Breakfast is 4 whole eggs. It's a cup of oatmeal. That cup is dry. So I don't even have a whole cup most of the time, 2/3 of a cup. And I'll have more blueberries in there. Blueberries most of the time is what I get now. That's pre-workout, my first meal of the day. After the workout, I have usually about 30 grams of whey protein and about 20 grams of casein blended together with some fruit. It'll either be an apple or some sliced up pineapple, something like that. Usually fruit though. The Glycofuse, I got away from it. Really kind of gives me gas, and you don't want to be around me when I have gas. So that's the post-workout meal, and then I'll have another carb meal. Will usually be I'll usually have some taco meat made of ground turkey with some tortillas, some gluten-free tortillas, you know, smashed up and all mixed together. A lot of times I'll have a turkey burger, either by itself, or more often, I'll be honest, on a potato bread bun with some cheese, and another piece of fruit with that, maybe an apple. And another meal would be, again, like salmon and vegetables. And in between those meals, so between that and the last meal, I'll have like a big shake, 50 grams of protein, along with about a half a cup of mixed nuts. So that's how I eat now. And I should also say I keep a protein shake in the refrigerator. I drink that in the middle of the night. I don't really measure it. It's about 50 grams. I don't always drink the whole thing at once. There'll be some left over. I'll put it in my coffee for the next day or something. So that's how I eat now. It's not as regimented per se. Still pretty clean. Will I have stuff like pizza every now and then? Oh yeah, of course. If I want to. I'm not competing. What does it matter? I like to stay fairly lean now. I keep my weight down for a few reasons. Number one, I have sleep apnea if I get over a certain weight. So my sleep is horrible, and I don't want to wear one of those masks. And there's a direct correlation with me, the snoring and the sleep apnea, to how much I weigh. I find if I get over 225, it starts getting pretty bad. If I'm 225 or so, it's manageable. It's not that bad. It's just an occasional thing during the night. When I'm under 220, I sleep like a baby. There's none of that. And when I've been as heavy as 240, it's just horrible. It's to the point where I have to sleep on my stomach, or else I cannot. The second I fall asleep, my throat closes up and I choke. So, you know, literally there's no sleeping. So, I guess that's quite a bit. That's quite enough for one more Ask Ron. We're almost at 20 minutes. So keep the questions coming, guys. I enjoy doing these. I hope you enjoy listening to them, and I will catch you later. Bye-bye.